I had applied kinesiology done to me. It's very big in the New Age. Really, it's kind of using the body as a tool of divination. So you believe that the body has this inner wisdom, and this is very common in the New Age that your body has inner wisdom. And so I'm holding this bottle of vitamins, and I don't know whether this vitamins are going to help me or not. So then the chiropractor, whoever it is, pushes my arm down to see how much resistance there is. And he determines from that and maybe something else I hold whether or not I should take it. Now that's there's nothing rational in there at all. It's completely irrational because it's based on a spiritual view that is nonsense. It is complete nonsense. Please, please, please do not do applied kinesiology, which is also called muscle testing.
And then they apply spiritual, like biblical concepts to it. Then they slap biblical names on this thing that never was sanitized. It just was
Yeah,
for us to get, take it in. So you went from a spiritual delusion to a sanitized delusion to then a Christian delusion, and
to
it's
live
all,
a Christian.
it's all, yeah, and it's a delusion. And the problem then becomes not only for you, like you're practicing these things, but you're passing it along to other people. You're passing it
Yeah,
along to your children. You're passing it along to the next
right.
generation. When Israel rejected God, it took one generation for them to just completely embrace a lot of lies. So it
Yeah, and
doesn't take
yeah,
long.
and whole churches can be infected by one person who introduces these
Yes,
practices. I actually know of cases where that's happened.
sure.
Um, and I think your progression there of how it gets sanitized and then it gets a Christian label on it is very good. I think that does happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for example, I was shocked as a new Christian when I was very new and I found out some other Christians were doing homeopathy. I knew what homeopathy was. I knew what it was
Mhm.
based on. It's based on these spiritual beliefs. And I was so shocked that these Christian women were doing homeopathy. And I remember I was sitting in this little circle of women. I can't remember why I was there, if I was the speaker or I was visiting or what, but somebody said something about it and I said, homeopathy. I said, "That's like new age." And they were so shocked and kind of offended that I said it. And I said, "Well, I know what it is. I was in the new age. It's the new agers are into homeopathy. It's based on, goes back to vitalism, which is a pagan belief in a life force permeating
Mm.
creation. And so, but they didn't really, I was still a really new Christian. I didn't know how to really explain things well, and I didn't know the
Mm.
Bible real super well. So I don't know. I can't recall exactly how that all ended, but I don't think that I convinced anybody that it was bad. So it's very frustrating for me sometimes because I see these things and I know what they are. And especially when I was a new believer, I did want to address somebody asked about
I
herbal
was going to bring
remedies
in, we're getting some really good questions.
and
So if,
applied kinesiology. I can say something about both of those.
yeah, let's talk about the herbal remedies.
Okay.
Are they wrong to take? And then yeah, there's a few, and I think this is a good transition. These questions are really good because the next
Yeah.
transition we're going to talk about experiences and the difference between truth and relativity and the way that people are coming about to knowing and growing in God by their own personal experiences instead of actually by the word of God. So I think this is a really good part for these. So thank you for bringing that up. So yeah,
Yeah.
herbal remedies.
Yeah. And that's a more complicated one because, of course, herbs are just herbs. It's a neutral thing. They're not good or bad of them in and of themselves. Now, the problem comes with a few areas. First of all, we have to remember nature is fallen. Okay. And I think that was mentioned, maybe Flynn, you mentioned it, that nature is corrupt. It was corrupted by, the sin in the garden. So there's nothing really especially powerful or, pure about nature or herbs. because a lot of people quote Genesis to me, but I'm like, but that was before the fall, you know. It was like
Good point. Yep.
that was before the fall. Remember the fall corrupted nature? Remember that?
Yeah.
So we need to keep that in mind.
And what did he say would come from the fall? Weeds. And money, funny enough, lots of people are using weed.
Weeds. Yeah. So here's I have cautions about it. Number one, the herbs are not regulated. Okay, they're not regulated, so you don't really know what you're getting. So that's a caution. Another one is it can only be used for minor things, and you need to make sure that that herb has the property. It's been shown to be able to do something. Okay, like I know that I don't really know a lot about herbs, but I know tea tree oil can help. I think it's fungus or something like that. It has a property that it's known for that particular thing. So there's certain herbs that have an effect that has been shown. We know that from research. So when you know that, you can use it for minor things. Um, but my caution would be this is not something to treat a major. Don't use herbs to treat cancer. Don't use herbs to treat Parkinson's disease.
Right.
Don't try to treat a major problem with herbs because they aren't powerful enough. The reason that drugs are powerful is that they are concentrated. That's also why they cause side effects, which is unfortunate, but I've had powerful drugs and I had some bad side effects, but also they healed me. I mean, they kept me from dying. So, you know, I'm grateful to the Lord that there were men with brains who came up with these drugs that saved my life. And I'm willing to have the side effects because I'm alive. Otherwise, yeah, I wouldn't have the side effects, but I'd also be dead. So I'd
Yeah.
rather be alive with the side effects. So
Amen.
they're not real, herbs are not real powerful. They can only do minor things. And the other caution I would give with that is that the herbal industry, if you want to call it, is connected to the natural foods, very much connected to the new age and to witchcraft. So if you
Yes.
really get into that area and you're looking at books or you're talking to people in a online group or something, you might come across people who are new agers or witches or Christians who have fallen into that thinking, not realizing it. I actually know a Christian woman who got into, briefly for a time, fortunately, because the Lord, drew her back out of it, got into witchcraft through her interest in herbs and natural food, herbs and natural healing. She actually got
Yep.
into witchcraft. I don't think she realized what was going on when it
Yeah.
happened. And later she came to her senses and God showed her. But don't that's what the Bible tells us. Don't think that you can't be deceived, and actually the New Testament, most of it is full of warnings against false teachings. And those are written to Christians. So all of us can be deceived. All of us can be deceived. So
Yeah.
just be careful if you're into herbs, be careful that that's an area that can lead into the new age and the occult. But I'm saying it's okay to use them if you research it, if that herb has that property, and if you're treating something minor,
Yep.
then it's all right. Now, the applied kinesiology, I need to say something about that because a lot of chiropractors and naturopaths use it, and Christians, so many Christians go to chiropractors. Um, so, applied kinesiology is complete bunk. I'll just be really upfront. It's complete bunk. It's originally based on this belief of the vitalism of this energy in your body. And because if you think about it, how is it that pushing your arm down and the resistance of your arm is going to tell you whether or not you should take a certain remedy? I had applied kinesiology done to me. It's very big in the new age.
Hmm.
Mm.
Really, it's kind of using the body as a tool of divination. So you
Mm.
believe that the body has this inner wisdom, and this is very common in the new age that your body has inner wisdom. And so I'm holding this bottle of vitamins, and I don't know whether vitamins are going to help me or not. So then the chiropractor, whoever it is, pushes my arm down to see how much resistance there is, and he determines from that and maybe something else I hold whether or not I should take it. Now that's there's no nothing rational in there at all. It's completely irrational because it's based on a spiritual view that is nonsense. It is complete nonsense. Please, please, please do not do applied kinesiology, which is also called muscle testing. And I want to say, don't mix up applied kinesiology with kinesiology. Kinesiology is an actual science of how I think the muscles and the tissues work together or something like that. You can look it up because I might be remembering it wrong. And it's used, I think, a lot in sports medicine. So
Right.
kinesiology is an actual thing, that's okay, but applied kinesiology is what I'm talking about. And sometimes they'll call it muscle testing. They might even be coming up with other words for it.
Hmm.
That's another thing you have to be careful about because sometimes they'll use a different term. Um, but it just, if it doesn't make sense to you, it's because it doesn't make sense. And they'll even do remote applied kinesiology, like the chiropractor or naturopath or whoever will do it on you for your child. I mean, how much sense does that make?
It doesn't. Yeah.
So
None.
it
No.
doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm glad that person mentioned it. I might not have thought of it, but
Yeah. I,
this
Well, I
is
would
just
say too, really, really quickly. A lot of people go to massage therapy. So
yeah,
when you go to massage therapists, there's a difference between a sports medicine person that actually is trained. I think anyway, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm happy to take the correction, Marcia, because I don't know everything, and um,
well, me
we're
neither.
just we're three party poopers right here. So I'm happy to have a party of party poopers. But from what I understand, there is science to muscles and how
Yeah,
pain
yeah,
works, and so
yeah.
there's obviously some areas that are helpful for sports medicine and for certain stretches. I'm not talking about yoga, but stretching and training and all
Mhm.
of that.
Right,
So if you have issues, it's probably better to look at more of the sports medicine side of things. But even then, I would always like I've had to go to a little bit of massage and chiropractic only because of some back issues, and I'm really picky. The person I go to is more always sports medicine based. It has nothing to do with any of this, and I interview them and talk to them. And if they have anything to do with Reiki, anything to do with Eastern mysticism, they're done. I won't let them even touch me or anything. And like the few times that I've had to do massage for certain areas, thankfully I have a sports medicine massage person that just does muscle groups, and I made sure
right.
that they do not they and what some of them will do, just so people know, is they will apply Reiki or energy transferring whether you ask them to do it or not. That's what they're doing.
Exactly,
And you
exactly.
that's
They
why
will.
you have to be really clear. If this person practice anything to do with energy healing, maybe they don't practice it on your session per se, but if they actually have that category, because a lot of massage therapists have categories they work in, and if that's one of their categories, then I would not do it because they will do it in spite of you. So I would say be really wise, careful, ask lots of questions before just jumping into any of that stuff. And whether it's intentional on your part or not, it's just better not to try to open any doors accidentally or intentionally.
yeah.
Yes, and yeah, I'm glad you brought up massage therapy. I did a post on that several years ago. Massage and massage therapy are two different things. Massage therapy didn't even really exist, or that term didn't exist, I don't think, before the 80s. There was a huge massage therapy school in Atlanta. I had a lot of astrology clients who were studying to be massage therapists. All massage therapy schools in the United States and I think in Canada incorporate New Age practices and a New Age worldview. And they will mix that. Some of the things they teach are factual about the body, but they'll mix in the New Age stuff. And I knew massage therapy was New Age. And I remember the first time I came across a young woman who was a Christian woman in a Christian home. I was actually staying in their home while I was speaking somewhere that was, in another state. and she said she wanted to go to massage therapy school, and I almost fell out of my chair because I was like, what? You want to go? It was almost like she said she wanted to go to astrology school or something. I was like, I told her, I said, it's new age. It's like, she kind of didn't really believe me, but I mean, it incorporates this view of the body that's new age, and they will say things that sound scientific that aren't. So they'll say, well,
Mhm.
if you massage this, it'll release this in the body or whatever, and it may or may not. So,
Right.
I personally have just said, now I know there's Christian massage therapists, and some of them have told me I'm very careful. I don't use any new age,
Hmm.
ideas, but I don't know if what they learned at the school, if they realized that it was new age or not. They may
Right.
have believed it. So I personally would not go to any massage therapist, Christian or not. That's
Yeah.
just me. You have to make your own decision, but be very careful. And like what you said, I've actually told people that. I've said, be very specific that you just want a physical massage. You don't want anything else. You just want a physical, my muscles are tight. I need you to massage them. But like you said, if they do the energy thing, they may do it on you anyway. And
Right.
so consequently, I would love to have a massage, but I have not gone to get a massage
Yeah.
because of that. I haven't gone. And someone actually gave me a gift, or was going to give me a gift for a massage, and I just decided not to use it because I just don't want to put myself in that. I can live without a massage. And if you're
Yeah.
really having a physical problem, go get then go to a doctor, have him or her refer you to a physical therapist for that
Right.
specific. I had a frozen shoulder several years ago. It's very painful.
Mm.
And I had to go to a physical therapist. I'm not saying a massage therapist would even say they could treat it. Maybe they would. I don't know. But I went to a physical therapist. But even there, I need to say very sadly that some physical therapists have gotten into energy healing. It
Yeah.
is
Sure.
just infecting. It is infecting the whole healthcare world,
Yes,
even
it
the
is.
medical world, because there are hospitals now that will offer things like acupuncture and stuff like that because they realize
Sure.
people want it. So it's really hard to navigate all this. And I've had serious illnesses, and the hospitals that I went for treatment, there were flyers. They would have a place where they had flyers, and there were flyers
Yep.
where you could go and get all of this alternative healing, which was all new
Yep.
age. It was
Yeah.
all new. Reiki was advertised, and all this new age stuff. So people who go there and don't know about it are like, "Oh, look, I can go get this."
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's just navigating. It's being in the waters with sharks. You're in the water
Hmm.
with sharks. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. As you two are talking, I was thinking about this because it is hard. The things you're saying, like navigating these waters, are hard. But
Yeah.
that's the reminder in Proverbs 4:20. It says, "My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them not
Mm,
depart from thine eyes, keep them in the midst of thine heart, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep thy heart with all diligence, and out of it are the issues of life." So it becomes really easy, even though it is hard, it becomes really easy when you rely on the Lord and what he says. And we find strength and healing from him. It may not be physical healing like you said earlier, but it'd be better to lose an arm than end up in really bad spots. And Jesus himself said, then go to the pit of hell, with two members. Now, that's regarding someone that actually doesn't put their faith and trust in them. It's not anything else. But even a believer can really hinder their relationship with God
yeah.
when going down this road. So,
Yeah. I've
And
seen it.
others.
I've
And
seen it
others.
and
happen.
others. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
good point. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just the world we live in. I mean, my wife was diagnosed with cancer in 2010. She went home to be with the Lord in 2014,
Oh,
and that's
oh,
what motivated her though to write. Thank you. She wrote a book just called Comfort in Christ, and it's just a cancer devotional that she went through, and she did a blog. But immediately, almost right away, whether it was through the Christian community or the doctors, they were handing us stuff, and that was 2010. and
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, you need to go to these things. You need to try these things." They had groups that
Right.
were like Reiki groups, and both my wife and I just thought. And so she was trying to find just some good devotionals, and she
Huh?
said, "I can't find a good godly devotional just trusting the Lord through these times because they all recommend all this garbage. Even the Christian ones get into all this weird
I know.
metaphysical stuff and mystical stuff." So that's what kind of motivated her to put the book together.
Well, good
But
for
and
her.
you know that
Good for her.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just sad because a lot of it looks scientific, it sounds scientific. And this has been how Satan, we talked about evolution. We had a whole series on evolution. We haven't done one yet on psychology, but at some point, that is our desire.
Definitely need
Psychotherapy
to.
specifically, a lot of that is under the guise of science. Freud, when he invented a lot of those ideas, he put Greek names to them to make them sound scientific when they were nothing more than shamanistic. And so you've got a whole realm of the world today that's embraced what they think is science. And the Bible calls it science falsely so called, or knowledge falsely so called. So
Right.
that's, we have to use discernment. And like you said, Marcia, really quickly, the research is out there. We have access to the internet, which is full of garbage.
Oh yeah.
But there is also there are scientific things studying herbs and what herbs really work. You can go research pretty much anything if you understand what sites to go to and what to look at and see whether these things really work or whether it's just a bunch of anecdotal evidence that some company puts out because they can make money on it. And that's really what a lot of the companies, they just care about the money and they know they could make lots of
Right.
money at this stuff and get
Right.
people like
Right.
Dr. Oz and other people
Oh yeah,
to
Dr.
promote these
Oz is a
things.
new ager. He's admitted
Oh,
he's a
absolutely.
follower of Swedenborg, who was kind of the grandfather of New Thought. New Thought is a separate movement from New Age, but the New Age incorporates a lot of New Thought, which I don't have time to go into New Thought, but I do have an article on my website on it. And and so there are some New Age doctors like Dr. Oz. Deepak Chopra no longer practices medicine, but he's a doctor from Harvard. He got his degree from Harvard. And there's several New Age doctors. I want to address something that someone said there, because that this is something that people may be thinking. What he said, "Oh, you mean the medical world that changes boys into girls and girls into boys?" And I think he made a comment that the medical world was demonic. Let's make a distinction between ethical behavior and what medicine is. Okay, medicine itself is based on research and on the discovery of God's creation. That's what science is. Science is the discovery of God's creation and how God put certain laws into effect. And so we can learn about the body by observing it, by noticing things that happen with the body when we're sick. All of that's been studied and that's used as research. And then when they come up with medicines, they have to test them. And, normally they're careful before they put it out there for people to take. That's all based on objective data. Yes, there can be mistakes. I'm not saying that anything's perfect, but the medical world, in terms of the ethical part of it, like doctors who may do abortions or doctors who do, gender changes and things like that, that's a different issue. That has nothing to do with the fact that medicine is based on objective data and alternative healing is based on spiritual views.
Mhm.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not endorsing all the practices of every doctor
No.
in the world. That's their choice. That's an ethical choice that they choose to do that. That has to do with a moral principle.
Yeah.
And
Right. That's
I'm not
more the
talking about
how.
moral principles. I'm
Right.
talking about
Yeah.
objective data for research. So I just want to make
Right.
that clear.
That's a good clarity. I mean, you can't base everything off of how somebody chooses to use medicine. What
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying
exactly.
is that the medicine itself is, a different field than the natural homeopathic
Yeah.
world. And I think because
Right,
of people's, and the reason you bring that up, I think is fair because people blur those lines, maybe
yeah,
unintentionally. They see the destruction of the way medicine can be used.
right,
But just
right,
like any
right.
tool, you could use a tool poorly, but it doesn't mean the tool itself is poor. It just means the
Yeah.
person maybe is poor in it. Not
Exactly.
doesn't mean it. Yeah. Anyway, I know we're running low on time, Kyle.
Well,
Go
the
ahead.
problem is their worldview is showing when they do those things, and just
Right.
like
Yeah.
sinful man, even if they say they're scientists, whether professor or seminary teacher, I mean pastors, like every person has a heart that is desperately wicked and swayed and persuaded by their own innermost thoughts and individualistic ideas. And so a scientist can be, a health practitioner, but their worldview is skewed because they're starting with the grounds of presuppositions. So it becomes more real for me when you start seeing those things, because it just reveals the heart of man, and not to put our trust in men.
Right.